Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Now that we've dove in and talked about angels and dragons, let's talk about another family here, and this is the elementals. When we look at the elementals, we see that each element, of which there are 6, this is air, earth, fire, metal, water, and wood. Yes, each one got at least one new elemental, and for the most part, they all got elementals that follow a similar kind of path, if you will. Level 13 elemental creatures, and there's even a different elemental creature I want to talk about in this video that's slightly higher level, but it'll make sense when we get there. Now, it's true that we got a few more elementals than that, but they don't follow the pattern, so I'm really just going to talk about the 6 here, one for each element, and then the 7th one, which was a bit of a surprise, and I want to leave that one for the end. Well, it was clear that these different elementals were built with each other in mind, right? There was a certain design element they were going to go for. They're still very different from each other, really representing their individual element. Following on from the other videos, I will be talking about what makes these elementals unique, but I won't be showing their stat blocks. I'm just going to be talking about some of the abilities they have that really make them interesting, and then talk about maybe how you might want to put them into a game. Let's go in the order of the elements themselves and start with air, which gives us the Destiny Tempest. Keep in mind, again, all of these are level 13, so I'm not going to call it the level because it's 13, except for the very last one, which is not 13, and that one will get a good level call out. So we start here with Ebbing Cloud. This is a 15-foot aura. It's difficult terrain for any creature attempting to come towards the Destiny Tempest, but not leaving it. And of course, it doesn't fight the Destiny Tempest itself. Now, keep in mind, a 15-foot aura, difficult terrain, that means that's actually quite a ways that you have to travel through, that you're spending a lot of actions to get up to it, and it affects the air as well, so you're not going to just fly into it either. Then we have Unspeakable Insights. This is a defensive mental effect it's got. If the Destiny Tempest is targeted by a mental effect, whether it be an attack or a save or anything with the mental trait, the user of that trait, so if I'm attacking the Destiny Tempest and I use some mental effect on it, I then have to make a will save, or I'm going to take 3d6 mental damage on a failure, or 6d6 on a critical failure, and I'm confused for my next turn. So targeting this with a mental effect is potentially very dangerous. Then it has Center of Destiny. This is a reaction. When a different creature within 30 feet uses an action with the Fortune effect, the Destiny Tempest can teleport right next to them. So you think you're getting some advantage using this effect, but now you've got this creature kind of bearing down on you. Then we have Divergent Potential. This is 2 actions. The Destiny Tempest is an interesting one. It's going to choose 2 different targets within 60 feet. And it's going to attempt melee attack rolls against both of them. Then it's going to fly up to 60 feet and land right next to one that it's now within reach of, based on the result it got. So let's say it rolled really well on one and rolled terribly on the other. It's going to fly the one it rolled well against and make that attack, and then the other creature is just ignored. So it takes 2 actions to make the one attack, plus the movement, but they get to choose whichever has the better result. So if they're going to crit somebody and fail and miss somebody else, they're going to take the crit. Now, if they fail either way, they'll still fly up to 60 feet, and then they just miss the attack. And oh well, they still moved, but it's not nearly as bad. The Destiny angle here is interesting. This could be a sign of change in Destiny. Maybe it arrives as a challenge if the party is attempting to alter time, right? Because there's a certain destiny to actions of the world, and they're trying to alter that. And so this creature shows up as a warning or an obstacle to changing that. Or it could be deployed as a weapon by a high-level creature attempting to alter time or alter destiny themselves as it relates to the heroes, which is a very different angle as well. So playing around with what's meant to be can be a very fun way to pull in an elemental that we haven't really seen before. All right, from Earth, we have the Terra Carver. This is slowed 1 if not touching solid ground. So this creature, if you can lift it off the ground, it's going to be in a lot of trouble. Also, if it falls prone, no matter the distance, so it could just be on the ground standing there. If it falls prone, it's going to take 15 damage from falling prone. And then if it's higher than that, it's additional 15 damage from falling prone. So it doesn't want to fall prone, but it's also going to be hard to knock this thing prone. Then we've got Territorial Retaliation. This is a reaction. When a creature in 15 feet moves at all, except for flight, so on the ground, something within 15 feet of it makes a move action, the Terra Carver will attempt to trip that creature. On a success or failure, though, the space where the creature is that got attacked and all the adjacent squares become difficult terrain for 1 round. So even if you succeed at moving away, you're still going to be hurt on your movement that you're making. Then we have Carve Projectile. This is 2 actions. What it's going to do is it's going to actually create a stone by kind of carving out some of the earth, and then it's going to make its ranged attack it has, but because it carved this stone itself, it's going to add the deadly D10 trait to the ranged strike, which is pretty strong, and on a hit, the creature is also knocked prone. So yes, it's 2 actions to make 1 strike, but it's got some great riders on it. Then we have Wedge. This is also 2 actions. So the Tarot Carver is going to make a melee strike, and then kind of come down with a second weapon, but it's all part of the 1 strike. If the strike hits, it's going to add an extra 3d10 damage using that second tool that's part of this Wedge strike. Also, the creature hit becomes enfeebled 2 for an hour or until it's fully healed, which is brutal against strength-based characters. So there is no doubt that this is a brute, right? It is a solid brute of a fighter. Being huge could act as a colossus of sorts. You know, imagine you've got a bunch of, especially if you've got small races out there, trying to climb all over this thing and attack it. You could kind of treat it differently in that way. So I think there's something interesting there. It's great as an ambush for the party when, say, the party's climbing a mountain or something like that, because this could just be part of the land that has been kind of trying to disguise itself as rock and then pops out and strikes, which could be really a scary setup, especially near a cliff. Then you can think about also using it like as a set piece. The party comes across a settlement that's being ravaged by one of these because it was built too close to, you know, some area that it has lived in forever, and so this makeshift settlement's getting torn apart because of where they chose to build it. Could be a good chance for your team to, you know, save the town and gain respect and start on other quests. All right, next up we have Fire with the Anguished Flame. Because of their natural light, these creatures ignore concealment from smoke, darkness, fog, and mist, which is pretty interesting. It can also heal others with the gentle warmth of its touch. Yes, the picture on screen would say this thing's going to burn you alive. However, as you get into the stat block, you're like, oh, is this a positive elemental? Like a healing, holy elemental? Yeah, it kind of has that. But not everything follows that mold. It has Solar Flare. This is an aura. It's a 30-foot aura. Creatures ending in it must make a basic Fortitude save against 2d6 fire damage, and on a fail, they are dazzled until the end of their next turn. Dazzled is actually pretty brutal. Then the creature has Vulnerable to Blasphemy. If a creature it can hear uses an action with the Blaspheming trait, and yes, that is a thing, this is Sickened 1 until it can collect a prayer, which we're going to get to in a second here, from the creature that used the blasphemy. So yes, very much this holy side of fire. Collect prayers. What's that all about? This is 2 actions. The flame chooses 1 creature within 60 feet to make a DC 30 will save. Even on a success, the creature has to then pray. It has to use its reaction to pray. So it has to give up its reaction, which can be brutal. And this is how it collects a prayer. But on a failure, the creature then prays, is slowed 1, and can't use reactions at all again for a minute. On a crit fail, it's the same as that, but with slowed 2. Even the fail here is rough. Slowed 1, no reactions for a minute, using the immediate reaction to pray. Like that's actually pretty brutal. And it could be tough if a couple creatures get this put on them, because lasting a minute and there's no way out of it, that's rough. And finally, we have Focus Gaze. This is 1 action, and the creature that it's focusing on has to be within that aura, so within that 30 feet I talked about earlier. The 1 creature it targets in the aura is forced to make a new Fortitude save. On a failure, the creature is blinded instead of dazzled, but it still does the 2d6 damage and all that. It's just this is blinded instead of dazzled, which is definitely worse. So yeah, this creature is oddly pious in nature and could be a reprieve from those celestials that we generally associate with all of the holy side of things. If you're looking for something that you just don't want to use angels or anything like their kin, any of the normal celestials, this could be a cool way to pull in that side of things. It's a fantastic mage NPC creature in my mind to help out the party, where the mage leans toward that clericy angle with what they summon, so it's kind of fun. Could be deployed as a defense within like a monastery or church setting, pulling together like candle flames to create its body, and could defend that location either against the party or on the party's behalf. Even defending a portal to the plane of fire, put in charge by a deity, could be a fun angle on this. I think there's a lot of ways to build this out as more than just a creature to toss into an encounter, but it's kind of focused on what this creature's about. On to metal and the Assault Alloy. This is a small creature. I'm calling it out because all the other ones are huge or large or whatever. Small. Keep in mind, small is different. It has metal manipulation. This is an aura, it's a 30-foot aura. It can use any unattended metal to make its ranged strike from that location. So it's basically hurling metal from wherever it can see within 30 feet at its targets, which plays into its other things it can do and is kind of what I lean into when I say what I suggest later for how to use it. But anyway, it has Instinctive Alloy. This is a reaction when hit by a metal weapon or a spell or effect with the metal trait. The Assault Alloy heals rather than taking damage. Most martials use metal weapons. This is really tough. You say, what if it's already healed? Well, if it's at full hit points, instead it's just going to gain temporary hit points from this. Any metal weapon triggering this then decreases its damage die by 1 size for a minute. This is brutal for anybody wielding a metal weapon against it, and could make an encounter really difficult if you have no spellcasters. Then we have Idle Transmutation. This can turn their metal spells or ranged strikes into any type of metal, which means things like adamantine, cold iron, whatever, which means they can trigger a lot of weaknesses. And finally, Metal Blink. This is one action. They turn partially liquid and can travel through metal up to their speed. So they're like in the middle of a whole bunch of weird, metal obstructions. They can just move where they want pretty easily. Given their size and their ability to kind of hide amongst metal, this is ideal for an ambush in like a scrapyard or, downed metal buildings, things like that. Crazy what you can do with it, especially since they can throw metal objects from a distance, doesn't have to give away their position necessarily. This could be really scary. Could also make an interesting self-aware creature to form into like a weapon or a shield. This would be certainly a high-level thing, and you have to play with a lot of it here, but the very concept of being able to change in the type of metal you want to at the time and, absorb this and gain hit points from being hit by metal could make a cool living armament or living shield. Anyway, just a weird thought there. I really think the ambush angle with this is very scary and very strong. With water, we have something that's, in my mind, pretty unexpected with the Iceberg Clam. This is huge in size, and again, that size definitely matters, more for this one than anything else we've seen so far. Somehow, it can occupy the same space as other creatures. It'll make sense in a minute, but from that picture, you'd be like, how? It's like this solid thing. We'll get there. It has Ambush Freeze. This is a reaction when an enemy enters or leaves your space as the Iceberg Clam, and you don't have your Frozen Shell, which we'll get to in a second. At this point, you then use Frozen Shell. So what is Frozen Shell? That is one action. It then creates a 60 hit point, 10 hardness shell that keeps everything that's inside the clam in and everything out. It can't be crit, and it can't take precision damage. And while it's up, all attacks that target the clam are really just going after this frozen shell. Now, it can't do this for 1d4 rounds after it's used it, but just keep in mind, it's going to make it really hard to get rid of the clam when you have to break its shell first. Then it's got Boil. This is an action where all creatures in the space, inside the clam's space, have to make a save against 4d10 persistent fire damage. If the shell is up, the shell does take 20 damage from this, and that ignores its hardness. Creatures can't recover from the persistent fire while they're trapped within the space of the clam. So if the clam's got your team in there, and you're not able to do enough damage to break through, or if it boils and then uses Frozen Shell, this could be really hard for you to escape, and 4d10 persistent fire damage is really gross. And finally, we have Heated Jet. This is a 60-foot line that deals 4d10 fire damage. This is a terrifying underwater battle. Amazing creature to ambush. Again, we've had a lot of ambush possibilities because they blend into their environment. This one it's almost critical that it's going to pull off the ambush with its deception here. It could be all sorts of things. It's just got some sort of chest hiding inside of it because they can share the space with that. Whatever you might do with it, you want to lure creatures in, boil them, and then throw the shell up and just watch them try to deal with it. It's also fantastic as some sort of guard or better yet, used by a clan of water kineticists. Could be a very cool, interesting way to play this in. Could be used by a deity to attempt to drown creatures. Like, say it's used to, you know, they attack ships and then they pull creatures down because they put them inside of the shell and then just drag them straight down, drowning them. Very interesting playstyles. Again, locking people inside gives you all sorts of options that you don't normally have with creatures. So just think about how to play with that mechanic. And our last single elemental creature is the ambush copse. I'm not really sure. It means a small group of trees, but I didn't see actually how to say it out loud, so that's fine. Axes and fire do hurt it, meaning it has a weakness to them. I think it's weakness 10 to axes and 15 to fire, if I remember correctly. But it's got resistance 10 to bludgeoning and piercing. There's a lot of resistance and weakness going on here. This was just kind of an interesting one because it plays into the first feature, Berserk. If this creature can see some other creature holding an axe or see fire, they have to make a DC 5 flat check at the start of their turn. If they fail, then they go Berserk. While Berserk, they cannot use concentrate actions, and they attack the nearest living creature or object, which is interesting. Then they have Blinding Branches. This is a reaction. When a creature within 20 feet leaves its square as part of a move action, so the creature just it doesn't have to be right next to them, just 20 feet because this has a long melee reach, then the creature must succeed at a reflex save or be blinded as branches are thrown at their face for a round. This only happens in forest terrain, however, so it has to be all these other trees around. Then there's Felling Ambush. This is a reaction when a creature moves within 10 feet of the ambush copse. Then this creature makes a log strike, which is its standard melee strike, and knocks the moving creature prone on a hit. There's a DC 30 reflex save, though, to avoid it. Now, this only works if this elemental is disguised as logs or trees. Again, I keep talking about all this ambush stuff. It's because they keep setting it up. Then we have Feign Copse. This is one action to look like trees or logs with a deception score of always 43 or 45 in a forest whenever somebody's trying to search for it. And it stays like this until it takes another action. So this one's telling you, set it up as an ambush. It's literally what we're doing here. As if the name didn't already give that away. Pulverizing Barrage. This is 3 actions. The creature's going to make 3 strikes at one creature. All the same creature. All these have a -2 to hit, but map doesn't happen until after them all. Now, the creature does become clumsy 2 until the start of its next turn, but that is 3 attacks. And based on its melee strike, that's an average of something like 106 damage if all 3 land and none of them are a crit. That is a ton of damage to wail onto one enemy all at once. And finally, Pounding Smash. This is just whenever you attack with a melee strike, it creates 5 feet of difficult terrain in the creature's space. So if it's a larger creature, it chooses one of the spaces, otherwise medium, it'll just be that space. Clearly, this is meant for forest ambushes. I mean, it's in the name, it's in every feature practically. Yes, it's going to be great for ambushes. So many of these elementals have been good for ambushes, but this one's just built for it. Also, this could be a great brute, like an enforcer or defender that's traveling with a dryad or some sort of nature spirit to protect it. I think that's a fun angle. Given the 20-foot reach, you can almost treat this as the creature version of Groot in your adventure if you really wanted to, because, I mean, you've got some serious reach and features that kind of fit. You could build a setup where this is higher level than the party, and then there's like other lower level, creatures along with it. And the trick maybe the party wants to play is having to get it to go berserk all the time so that it's constantly taking out the smaller creatures for you and it's fighting back and forth with them so that you don't have to take it out. And it's more of a, how do we keep it berserk all the time situation. But anyway, I think there's lots of cool ways to do it. Okay, so each of those was level 13, covered 1 for every single element. What is this 7th one all about? Well, this is the Totem Font. This is level 15, has all 6 elemental traits. It has elemental attunement. This always attunes to one element. It's always attuned. So it's tied to one of them. And it's whichever face is facing forward of the 6 faces here. It has both reactive strike and shield block, the standard reactions as they are. It has 1 special action for each of the 6 elements, depending on what face is forward, and then 1 action that can be used by any of the faces. So let's start with that generic action that is Elemental Eruption. This is 2 actions. Each creature in a 20-foot emanation takes 9d6, approximately 31.5 damage. This is bludgeoning for water and earth, slashing for metal, piercing for wood, fire for fire, and electricity for air. So it all depends on the face that's facing forward, the attunement. And it's just straight damage. It's not a ton of damage, but it's in a 20-foot emanation, so it's decent damage. Then we have the individual faces actions. We have Briar's Hold. This is 2 actions for wood. Each creature in 20 feet, so again, the same emanation, must succeed at a fort save. Otherwise, it's going to be slowed 1 for 1 minute, which is already kind of brutal. And if already slowed by this and fails again, is petrified for 1 minute, but it's wood instead of stone. Still, that's really rough. Brilliance of Flame, 2 actions, fire. The font flies 30 feet, then erupts. So it's still using eruption, but it's also getting to move 30 feet before it does that. So this is your just straight AoE damage option. Next is Entomb. This is actually a free action. This is Earth. To use this, your last action has to have been a successful melee strike. It does have a standard melee strike on the sheet here, but I'm not showing that. If it did that, then it makes an athletics check to grapple that enemy. So this is like being able to add grab to that attack, but it's only when you're in the Earth attunement. Then Overflowing Tide. This is 2 actions, water. Elemental Eruption, but also you push creatures back 20 feet on a fail, or even 10 feet on a success. So if you just need to get creatures away from you and just push, who knows, 3 enemies away, water's probably a good way to do that. Then we have Serrated Flurry. This is 1 action, metal. It can only be used once per round. You make 2 tendril, which is the melee strike, attacks. It's got a reach 10 feet on it, by the way. And you do it at different targets, but it's just 1 action. Multiple attack penalty applies, but at least you get 2 for 1. Kind of like Flurry of Blows, right? Then Tempest Charge. This is 1 action, air. You fly 60 feet and tendril attack a creature that you have not attacked yet. For 1 action, that's great. You can cross the entire map and go after that caster who's been sitting in the back line, causing some problems. The first thing that came to mind for me when I looked at this was the 1980s Transformers movie, and I thought, oof, boy, this could be a fantastic judge character going after a party that's been assaulting nature, not caring about their actions, destroying forests even if accidentally, or whatever that might be. Could be a great creature to judge the party. And it's also good for a puzzle setup where you can have it switch faces every turn, and the team has to learn the pattern to be most effective against it and deal with all its abilities it's got. I think if you're using it as a puzzle thing, you can actually have this be quite a bit higher level than the party, because as long as there's pattern stuff built around it, you can still effectively deal with it, even though, it is a higher level. The damage it does with its standard AoE isn't so high that a lower level group would instantly die to it. And one last fun possibility is just turning it into an NPC that's kind of got multiple personalities. Maybe each face is trying to give out different quests to the party and they're fighting with each other. It could also be played off very funny. And there we go. 7 awesome new elementals to look into to toss into higher level adventures, or even as like the top end of mid-level adventures. Really solid challenges here, interesting options. Are you excited by the elementals like I am? Because I love elementals. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, adventure on.